Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me. This is Taliesin McKnight, and today I'm going to show you how to make a prosperity jar as a form of practical magic. This is a very simple form of spell work, and today what I'm talking about comes mostly from a hoodoo perspective. So this is hoodoo. So this is a very simple form of practical magic, practical occultism. So also, if you look below in the description box, I will give a written copy of the spell and the ingredients that you can use. So if you'd like, you can copy and paste this into a Word document, and so you'll have a written copy of the spell for reference. So, and just a quick reminder to my viewers, new videos come out every Saturday morning. So if you want to learn more about these different magical traditions, be sure and subscribe, because new videos come out every Saturday morning. So, prosperity jars, bottle magic. How does this work? It's actually very simple. You take a jar, you can use a mason jar, whatever, and you'll add ingredients that represent your desire. This is a way to focus and harness your intent. So you could add different stones, different herbs, different crystals. You can add a petition paper, a business card. You'll add different items that represent your desire. Bottle magic could also be used to petition a spirit or to work with a certain spirit. And basically, you will pray over this, direct your energies into it, and the way I'm teaching it today, you can burn candle spells on top of the jar as a way to feed it, in a sense. Now, this is a very simple form of magic. Basically, you just need a jar and the different ingredients you're going to put into it, and then you'll imbue your jar with energy, or life, in a sense. Now, today we are looking at this from a hoodoo perspective. Now, hoodoo is what many people think of as voodoo, of practicing voodoo. Now, voodoo and hoodoo are two distinct traditions. Voodoo is a West African religion that works with the spirits, which are called the Loa. It works with the spirits. Voodoo is a West African religion that was brought to Haiti. It was brought to New Orleans. The religion was brought to different areas, different forms. So voodoo is a West African religion of working with the spirits, serving the spirits. Now, hoodoo is a form of African American folk magic that is practiced all over the southern United States. So hoodoo and voodoo are two distinct traditions. Although in New Orleans and in Louisiana, these two are often blended together. So if you go to New Orleans, people will work with the Loa. They will serve the spirits, but they will also work with, graveyard dirt and, red brick dust and, working with jar spells and different things. So in New Orleans, these things are blended together. But outside New Orleans, these are two distinct traditions. So anyways, I'm going to be looking at this primarily from a hoodoo perspective, although this type of magic is found in other traditions. Okay, so what are you going to need for your prosperity jar? First of all, you're going to need a jar. I suggest getting a jar with a metal lid. The reason a jar with a metal lid is good is because you're going to be burning candles on top of this. So for practical purposes, you don't want to burn candles on a jar with the plastic lid on top of it. So, just saying, y'all, you can get a mason jar. You could get a jar that you have some kind of strawberry preserves or whatever in. So you just get a jar. I like to get kind of a large one because I like to put a lot of ingredients in it. So you have your jar. And again, within the jar, you'll put in different items that represent your desire. So you can put in different crystals, different stones, herbs, roots. You could put in a petition paper. So each item that you put into your jar will represent your desire. And this is a way to focus and harness your intent. So you may have a certain stone, pray over it, put your intentions into it, and place the stone into the jar. You have certain herbs, you work with that, put them inside the jar. You may write out a petition paper, writing out your desire and put that in the jar. You may add personal concerns. You may add a business card. So whatever you put in the jar will represent your desire. The jar as a container basically serves to hold different items that represent your goal. Now, in regard to the ingredients, this is a very ancient belief and practice. It goes back thousands of years, found in virtually every culture, virtually every system of magic around the world has the belief that different items have power to them. Different stones, different herbs, different items have occult properties to them. So this is a very ancient belief. Okay. By the way, this is a jar spell that I was working with. That's for a slightly different purpose, but I just thought I would show you. So, this is a very ancient belief, and you'll see it in most forms of folk magic. Just like different herbs have medicinal properties to them, they're also believed to have occult properties. For example, some herbs are known to relieve headaches. They're known to relieve pain. Other herbs are said to help you to sleep. Some herbs speed you up and give you energy. Some plants are poisonous. Some plants, when ingested, intoxicate you. So that just like different herbs have different medical properties, there's the belief that they have certain occult properties to them. So that some herbs, some stones, some crystals are believed to they're used for love spells, to bring in love and romance. Other herbs are used for prosperity and money. Some are used for black magic and for curses. Some are for protection. So different herbs are said to have occult properties. So what you're going to put in your jar will be prosperity herbs, prosperity stones, different curios that are used specifically for prosperity. Now in Hoodoo, there's the very ancient belief that these plants and stones and things actually have these properties to them. And also the animistic belief that all things have a spirit or a soul. And so when you work with a stone or a plant, you get in contact with the spirit of the plant. So when you take a certain root, try to get in contact with its essence or spirit. Tell it what you want it to do. Work with its energies when you put it in the jar. That's a very ancient belief. So that is the more traditional belief that they actually have these properties. Also, a more Western perspective, and it's growing more and more, is a different view that these are all just symbolic, that they're just ways to focus your intentions, that whatever stones or herbs are just a way to focus your mind. So that, for example, cinnamon really doesn't have any property to it. It's just a symbol. It represents your goal. Of course, this is frowned on by more traditional workers, and many people are in the middle. They think, yes, they have these occult properties, and they're just a way to focus your intent. So whatever the case may be, whether the items you place in it really have occult properties, or whether it's a symbol, or both, you'll put different items in your jar that represent your desire. So what are some examples of what you can put in your prosperity jar? For one thing, coins. Put in some quarters, some dimes. Very simple. Put in some coins. Okay? Obviously, coins represent money. You could add a business card to it. So put in some coins, a business card. What about different herbs? What are some plants that you can put in herbs? What are some different herbs that you can put in your jar? Well, for one thing, cinnamon. Cinnamon. Okay. Cinnamon is used for it's used for money spells. Okay, it's used for prosperity. Cinnamon is also used for love spells to spice up your love life. Now, really spicy herbs are often used for curses in malevolent forms of spell work, such as red hot pepper, cayenne pepper, things like that, are used for destructive works. But cinnamon is used to spice up your love life because it has kind of a spice, and yet it's sweet. So in a love spell, you would never put cayenne pepper because that's used for curses and things like that. Goofer dust, whatever. So if you want to spice up your love life, you may add some cinnamon. But cinnamon is also used for prosperity spells. Okay, so it's for money. Cinnamon. Another example is alfalfa. Alfalfa is a very good, herb to use. Irish moss. Irish moss is a good one. Let's see, what are some other examples of prosperity herbs? Allspice. What else? I mean, there are all kinds of different herbs. Below in the description box, I'll give a list of ingredients that you can add. So these different plants represent prosperity. Certain stones are said to represent prosperity. Whatever you put in your jar represents prosperity. In the same way, you can do a love jar and add certain things that represent love. You can do a peaceful home jar. So these same principles could be applied to different forms of magic. Okay. So, stones. What are some different stones you could add? Aventurine is a popular one. Pyrite. Pyrite is a very popular stone that people use. Hold on just a second. I need to make a note real quick. I'm actually kind of a absent-minded person. So when I think of something, I mean, this has nothing to do with the video. About to write a note real quick. That's something to keep in mind for later. Pyrite is often referred to as fool's gold. Pyrite, that's a good one to put. Animal curios. Sometimes animal parts are used. A lot of people are familiar with the lucky rabbit's foot. There are alligator paws, alligator tooth, parts of a frog. These things are often used in hoodoo for prosperity. Now, I'm not encouraging anyone to go out and kill an innocent animal to use as a part of a prosperity jar. But in Louisiana, people eat alligators. People eat alligators in Louisiana. People eat frogs' legs. So some people eat turtle. So in that case, if it's already being used for food, then some people, instead of throwing it away, they'll use an alligator paw. So this is a very popular curio to use for prosperity. So a curio is a general term for an item used for its occult properties. So different roots, different stones, alligator paws. These are all examples of curios. Okay. All right. So whatever item you put in your jar will represent your desire. Whether it really has the energy in it, which is more traditional viewpoint, or whether you see it more as a mental thing, which is not as traditional, and yet more and more people every day are starting to see it that way. I think it's our modern, I guess more skeptical mind trying to rationalize it. I don't know. But, a lot of people are starting to reinterpret these traditions. So that part is pretty simple and straightforward. So we've gone through part 1 of making a prosperity jar. The first part of a prosperity jar is the items and ingredients that you put into it. That's part 1. Okay, that is the body. That is part 1 of the spell. This is the body of the spell. You take each item, you'll pray over it, or if you're not religious, place your intention into it, focus on what this stone is, or this root. Place it in the jar. Take your next item. Focus on what it's used for. Pray over it or whatever. Place that in the jar. So you'll put your different ingredients in the jar. Personal concerns are a form of magical link. A magical link is something that connects the spell with a target. If you're doing a prosperity spell for a client or for a friend or neighbor, then you're going to need some of their hair, fingernails, their photograph, some kind of a link with that person. If you're doing a spell for yourself, you may want to add your personal concerns. Maybe pull a couple strands of hair, put them in there. Put something that connects with you, your fingernails. Maybe chop off a couple of whiskers. Personal concerns is something that connects you with the spell. If you're doing it for a target and you don't have their hair or anything, then print off their picture, get a photograph, write their name on the back with their birth date. So personal concerns are important. A business card links the spell with your business. So different stones, things that represent prosperity, personal concerns. This is the physical body of your spell. Many people think that's it. All it is to a spell is the physical items. That's half of it. You have your physical body, now you have to give it a soul. You have to breathe life into it. And this goes back to the very ancient belief, it's a form of animism, that all things are living. Basically, you're creating a living being from this perspective. Just like a mojo bag, as a form of African American folk magic, a mojo bag is seen as creating a living thing. You have your different roots, different things you put in the bag, and then you'll put your intentions there, and you give it life. And then you feed the bag with your oils or your whiskey or whatever. So just like a mojo bag is seen as a living thing, this spell jar is seen as a living entity. Whether you take that from a literal standpoint or as symbolic, whatever the case may be, you're creating a living thing. I guess you could say a thought form. So the physical ingredients are the body. This is the physical jar. It's the stones, the herbs, business card, the coins. All of that is the body. Now you have to give it a soul. You have to give it life. And you can take that as literally or as symbolically as you want. You have your physical things. Now what do? You take your jar in between your hands, focus on your goal, and push that energy into the jar. Push that goal. I don't even know how to fully explain. Focus on your desire and sort of push that energy into the jar. You have to give it life. You may breathe on it, just push it, direct your energies into it. So you have the physical items, now you have to imbue it with an energy or a life force. So you charge it, you put your energies into it. And this is how this becomes a living thing from an occult and magical standpoint. You have a living thing. I guess a Western perspective would be to call it a thought form from that standpoint. You're creating a thought form or servitor or egregore. That's a totally different magical tradition, but I guess it's a similar type of concept. Hold it in between your hands. You may pray over the jar. Tell your jar what you want it to do. Place your intention there. Direct your energies into it. Pray over it. You may shake the jar and focus on what you want. This is a vessel. Think of it as a vessel or a cup that receives the energy. This is the materia, the body. You have to give it a spirit or a life, which is filled with the intention of the spell. So, now we get to part 3, the final part of the spell. You've constructed the body. You've given it a soul. Now what do? You've constructed the physical body. You've given it life. Now you have to feed the spell. I know this probably freaks a lot of people out. You know, they think it's some kind of horror film where you're creating something, but I mean, that's how I'm teaching it. You may see it differently, and you may be a hoodoo practitioner and you were taught differently, but this is a living tradition This is how I learned, and this is how I present it. If you're working with a mojo hand or a bottle spell or whatever you're doing, in a sense there are two elements, the body and the soul. You're working with a living thing from this perspective. So just like you feed a mojo hand, you feed your bottle spell. Some people shake their bottle and they tell it what they want it to do. Whether it's a bottle for money, love, luck, whatever. How do you feed your spell? You can feed it by burning candle spells on top of it. Basically, get you some green candles. Green is a color of money in the U.S. Green is the color of growth and fertility in nature. Plants bloom with life. It's green. So green is a symbol associated with prosperity, growth, fertility, abundance. Get some green candles. You may take a needle and write your desire around it, or carve money signs in the candle, or write your name in it. Whatever you do. You may take some holy water, cleanse the candle, pray over it. If you come from that type of a religious perspective, you can hold the candle in your hands and push your energy into it. So I look at it, even candle spells, I look at it from the same body and soul perspective. You have your physical item, you have to imbue it with energy. Now other hoodoo workers see it differently, because they say, well, the herbs, the roots, they have a soul in it already. They already have their properties. You don't have to charge them. And then others see it as different components that you then imbue with life. There are different perspectives in hoodoo. But basically, get you some green candles, pray over the candle, put your energy in it, and then burn your green candle on top of your jar. So this is combining candle magic, which is probably the simplest form of magic, and bottle magic. So you can burn as many green candles on this as you want. Pray over the candle, light it, or if you're not religious, a statement of intent. Focus on your goal. Many people recite psalms. So you'll burn a green candle on this periodically, whatever. Whenever you want to add energy to the spell, take a green candle, burn it on top. Okay? And some people, if they let you see it, because some root workers won't let you see their magic, but you'll see the whole jar covered in wax sometimes. Sometimes you can't even see in the jar because they've burned so many damn candles on them. Just saying. So that is a very simple way of doing this. And I have a friend on Facebook who asked for some spell advice for getting customers to a business. And I suggested this type of spell, so I figured I'd make a video on making a prosperity jar. Put your items in it, put your intention there, and then you can burn some candle spells on top of it. So that's it. And again, in the description box, I'll give a written copy of the spell. And that is a simple method for making a prosperity jar. So anyways, again, just a reminder, every Saturday morning, new videos come out every Saturday morning. So if you enjoy watching my videos, keep your eyes open for every Saturday morning. More will be coming out. And be sure and subscribe if you want to see more. So thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you guys next Saturday morning. Have a great day, everyone.